Today I'm going to be showing you the best changes in the new Season 2 upcoming update. As always, before I get started, please drop a like, make sure to subscribe to the channel with bell notifications turned on, and drop a comment down below suggesting what video you want to see next. So they start this blog off by saying, "Hello Call of Duty community. We want to share some updates coming to Season 2 multiplayer, DMZ and Battle Royale. Information on new features, maps, modes and more will be shared over the coming weeks. All the changes outlined in this blog will be further detailed along the new content in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2.0 patch notes to be released prior to the season launch on February 15th. So first they've made this section about global changes. So these are changes that are going to affect every part of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Warzone 2 and DMZ as well. So they've first mentioned like a little bit about the crashes and stability. They said that they remain dedicated to improve the stability and performance of their games, including crashes across all platforms. They've not mentioned too much here, but they have said that in the patch notes they'll mention a little bit more about specific bug fixes. Audio, which I think is a big problem in Call of Duty, including the multiplayer and the Warzone content. So in this part, they've said that they've found a few issues, mainly for PC players, and also they've mentioned a little bit about audio occlusion, where it's not fully been working the way it's supposed to be. They've said this issue will be addressed in Season 2, and they'll continue to work on new fixes and new audio features to better the player experience. I think the main problem here is the footsteps. I think everyone is well aware of this, and I'm sure Call of Duty themselves know this also. But if Warzone wants anything to go off, we do know that they've mentioned this many times, and it took them right until like nearly the end of the life cycle of Warzone 1 for them to actually get anywhere close to addressing the footsteps. And even then, there were still issues. We'll just take this small part with a pinch of salt. They've then got a section on UI. They've said a number of UI updates are coming to Season 2. This is to improve the game menus and the overall flow of it. So they've got improved navigation and organization of the camo menu. I mean, okay, didn't really need to be done, but I suppose, yeah, why not? They've got a new polished social tab, including channel swapping and player muting. I feel like this is quite an important change that they definitely needed to make, as a lot of people it was very confusing, and I don't think it worked completely, but there we go. They've got a new My Bundles screen, which is something that's I don't think anyone's going to complain about. It's a good thing, but again, maybe unnecessary. They've got quick equipped items from Battle Pass, bundles, and store. I feel like, again, this is just a quality of life improvement, and yeah, good thing, but not necessary, really. They've got reticle previews in store and Gunsmith. This is definitely a good thing, because I mean, who's going to want a bundle that you can't even actually preview the things you're actually trying to buy? They've got improved clarity for attachment blocking logic in Gunsmith. I feel like this is just a bug. This sounds like something that they should have already addressed. And they've gone on to note many more bug fixes. Again, doesn't really need to be said to that. They've also introduced a fix that's restored instant speed of recent players in menu and the status refresh of friends. So again, two good things. Okay, fair enough. So then we move down to experience. We've got improved after action report with audio. Improved after action report with audio. Not quite sure what this means, but I guess we'll go on to find out. They've got the player gain feature in Battle Royale. This is a massive thing that I don't understand why it was never in the game from the beginning, but hey, there we go. We've got bug fixes for inconsistencies between challenges, battle pass, weapon progression. Again, more bug fixes, fair enough. Weapon balance. We've got weapon balance is something that we are always analyzing, and we'll be balancing weapons for Season 2, just like any other mid-season or seasonal update. Yeah, they go on to mention this, and obviously this is something that we should be expecting anyway, so not really something to get excited for, because okay, maybe they should have done a better job balancing the weapons in the first place, or you know, but we'll go on, we'll see how this goes. Hopefully hopefully they get this right. The next up, the biggest part of this this blog altogether is the Warzone content / Battle Royale. They first mentioned the Gulag. Okay, right, now this is a big thing, because they've actually bit their tongue here, and they've took out the jailer. This is something that they added. I don't know why they added it, or even let's just mention the 2v2. Why did they add this? 2v2. No one asked for it. The 1v1 Gulag, everyone loved it. It was perfect the way it was. You know, I just think sometimes they've done a little bit too much. They've done too much thinking, and if they'd just kept the game a little bit more simpler, you know, just took a lot of a Warzone 1 and brought it over and put it in Warzone 2, give us a new map, make some changes, You know, mainly things we've asked for. These are just things that we never asked for. I mean, the 2v2 was never going to work because it's completely random who you got put in there with. You know, you either get put in there with someone of your similar skill, someone worse, someone better, you know, and for one person or the other, it's always going to be a good thing or a bad thing. The 2v2 gulag also just made it completely based on luck, whether you get a good teammate or you get a bad teammate. It took the skill away from the game. So the 1v1 gulag coming back is a good thing. But again, something that they should never have changed in the first place. We then go on to cash economy. So they've made changes to basically the amount of cash that's found. So from piles of ground loot, they've made it the minimum you can find in a pile of ground loot now is 800. And cash registers are at least 500, whereas before you could occasionally find a minimum of 100, whereas now they've moved it to 500. Again, good changes, things they probably should have thought about before, but at least they're getting fixed now. They've put cash can be acquired from ground loot containers and white stronghold supply boxes throughout Al Mazrah, but can no longer be found in basic or legendary supply boxes. See, I'm okay with this. I feel like, yes, these are good changes they're making, but I don't know about this last line here, but can no longer be found in basic or legendary supply boxes. What is the reason for this? Again, okay, this redistribution should make quicker, more consistent gameplay in the pursuit of resources. I agree with it, but maybe they should have just kept this in and then took it out at a later date if they thought, okay, we've done too much here. We then move on to loot and inventory. As announced last week, we're shifting away from loot menus, / windows, to the floating loot that was similar to Warzone 1, basically. The loot will spew out all over the floor instead of being in a menu. Again, this is a good change, something that they changed originally from Warzone 1, which then didn't need to change, you know? It just slows down the play, it slows down people from playing the game. It makes it more complicated for no reason. Again, something else they didn't need to change. They've put this change is intended to improve the pace of gameplay by minimizing the time spent navigating UI. Okay, well, obviously, right? You know? It's the whole reason it was on the floor in the first place. So why did they do it? They're saying they're making this change now to improve the pace of gameplay. So why did they try to slow the pace down in the first place? Was that the idea of putting it in a UI, putting it in a menu, putting it in a window? Who knows? They then went on to mention they were excited to see the new backpack system that gave players the agency to customize their inventory for desired playstyles. Again, it's just, you know, they didn't really think this through. It just seems to me like they've made a lot of changes, Warzone 2.0, and now they are now thinking about what they've done. You know, like, why would the thought process not before they've made the game? You know, they would have made their own life a lot easier. Instead, now they're going to have to go back and revert all these bad decisions that they've made and, you know, revert them to how the player base want them to be. You know, what we loved about Warzone 1. So they put large and medium backpacks will no longer be available, and eliminated players will now drop loot onto the ground rather than in a backpack. Again, this is just the same kind of thing as the Windows menus, floating loot, you know, whatever. Why was it not like this in the first place? They've put every player will have the same backpack through the entire game, which will subsequently reduce the impact of stacking medical supplies, equipment, and kill streaks. So, yes, they've heard the community moaning about people stacking kill streaks, stacking medical supplies and equipment, and they've listened. So, I can't say anything bad about that. It's good. It's a good change. They've then got a section on loadouts. They've put loadouts have always been a core part of Warzone's Battle Royale and something they pay close attention to. The changes players have seen since the launch of Warzone 2 and since then have ultimately been in pursuit of the most fulfilling experience for the individual, the team, and while keeping things challenging. You know, so they've just adjusted the way we're going to be seeing people get loadouts. And again, it's almost like they're just reverting to Warzone 1 again. I mean, which everyone wants, so it's not a bad thing. But it's just, why did they not think about this in the first place? Why did they not think, if they'd have listened to the community would have told them what to put in Warzone 2. We've all voiced our opinions on Twitter, on YouTube, on blogs, many other things, TikTok, the list goes on. So they go on to say that they've decreased the price of primary weapons from buy stations, and they've also slightly decreased the price of loadout markers. Again, 2 more good changes. It's another step in the right direction. They've even put, occasionally, we might find a loadout while looting through Al Mazrah. Another very good thing. I feel like it was in Warzone 1, and it was a good thing. They've put a second loadout drop public event has now been added, which means in the first and the fifth circle of each match, there'll be a loadout drop. It gives a much fairer game because then the people that got it at the start and didn't die, they've got their loadout. The people that managed to regain and get back into the game, they get their loadout fifth circle. You know, it gives a much fairer experience. Additional changes. We've got 4 additional changes here. We've got the free plate vests that they've gone on to say are no longer going to be in the loot. So no more looking for a free plate. Again, we're making it very fair again because, you know, this 2-plate, 3-plate, it was an unfair advantage for anyone that has a 2-plate and they come up against someone with a 3. They're bringing it back. Okay, I see what they were trying to do, but bringing it back to it, everyone has a free plate. It just makes it much fairer. And they've put, we'll continue to look at data to optimize downtime and improve the ability to recover from a prior engagement. Now this sentence here is very, very important to me, and I'd imagine a lot of other players too. If you're trying to recover from an engagement, this shouldn't be hard. This should be easy to recover. You've won this engagement, so you should be able to be ready for the next fight as fast as possible. Moving on, movement. So they have now added something that they said they wasn't going to add, something that they did not want to add, and they've been forced into this, right? Because everyone is moaning at how slow this game is. So now players will be able to bust through doors while plating the way they would as if they were sprinting. This change includes a slight movement speed increase rather, while plating to enable players to get to cover faster in moments of need. Well, that just about sums up that. Good change. No one can complain at that. I feel like it's something that we all needed. The fact that there's nothing else in this movement section kind of disappoints me though. We all know they don't want to put slide cancel back in the game. And this is fine because, you know, it was something that was never meant to be in Warzone 1 anyway. It was learned by players and they didn't take it out because everyone started doing it. Everyone that was good learned how to slide cancel. If they don't want to put it in the game, then that's fair enough. They've added this dolphin dive, which I don't think, you know, I think there's very certain moments where the dolphin dive might come into play and it might be good to do, but I don't feel like it's something that everyone's going to be using. As for the slide, like the slide in this game is completely useless. Why have they made it so you cannot shoot your gun while sliding? This is ridiculous. No one wants to slide because if you slide in this game, you're at an instant disadvantage and it will most likely cost you your life. You know, I don't need to go on and say this. The devs go into the game, play the game, try sliding into your enemy. You see what happens. Also, one more thing to mention for movement is, okay, the shooting in while midair. I get this. Coming out of the starter plane, I get this. You're jumping down, everyone used to shoot you out of the sky, right? I get that they don't want that in the game. I feel like it's something that doesn't need to be in the game, but why can you not shoot in the air altogether? I feel like after that, any other time you should be able to shoot from the air. This is a stupid change, and I feel like it's something that they need to consider. Moving on, buy stations. They've gone on to say that they've revamped their approach to the spawn locations, and they've adjusted/added spawns. They've put spawns will be static across the map, and loadout drop markers will have unlimited stock at all stations. As soon as they added the loadout drop markers, this should be a thing already. Not much more to say on that. A good change. Moving on. Strongholds. Strongholds provide an alternate gameplay experience with high payoff for those willing to tackle the objective, and for others interested in robbing players of their rewards. We are committed to providing a balanced engagement for players to choose to enter Strongholds. Season 2 will bring changes to the rewards players receive from Stronghold and Black Site completion, as well as additional adjustments to AI combatant damage. Again, you know, something they didn't need to add. Strongholds, Black Sites. Does this really belong in Warzone? Are these things that should be in Warzone? AI? I feel like these belong in DMZ. I know why they're not going to take them out. They've coded them in. They've spent a lot of time doing it. They don't want to take them out. Fair enough, but you know, this AI needs to be looked at. They need to be weakened. They need to be less powerful. Moving on. The next section is DMZ. Okay, so we've got enemy tuning as the first thing. So this goes back to just what I was just saying about the enemies, the AI being so strong. You know, they've been the same in DMZ. They're very strong in DMZ too. I feel like in DMZ they should definitely be a little bit stronger than the Battle Royale, but they are definitely too strong even in this. And you know, this point is a fair point and good that they're looking at it. Spawn points, they go on to make another fair point here. Whereas sometimes you'd spawn in a place where you feel isolated and you're lacking loot, especially if you're loading in after you've just lost a DMZ game and you've lost your guns, you've lost your plates, you've lost whatever, right? But they've improved the spawns across the map. Another good change. Mission difficulty tuning. They go on to say that some players find this way too aggressive, and I can't really argue with it. You know, if you're a medium skilled player, and you know, you might struggle with these challenges. So I think down in the difficulty is definitely a good thing, and I feel like, you know, it'll be more fun. They're making the game more fun. You know, it doesn't have to always be too challenging. They go on to mention crashes again. This is, you know, another thing that we all know about. We all know there's plenty of crashes in this game. And okay, they're looking into it. Good. Seasonal refresh is, again, something we should be expecting. Can't say too much on it. New missions, new things. You know, this is just something that should be expected. They've put locations. With a new exclusion zone coming to Season 2, players will have a third option to choose when deploying into DMZ. I feel like this time they need to add more about the game mode. Building 21 didn't really explain itself, and if you weren't familiar with it, you could have went into it blind, not knowing what you were doing. I feel like adding more detail and more information on what these things are will help massively, and it will encourage people to play more as well. Overall, DMZ, I can't say that they've made bad changes. They've made lots of good changes. It's a little bit lackluster. There isn't much there, but all in all, good changes. Multiplayer. Now, this is a big point. Multiplayer, I feel like, is the most lackluster. I feel like it's got the most lacking in effort from them. We all understand that Warzone's their main part of the game now, and multiplayer ever since Warzone has taken a step back. Most of the fan base is probably okay with this. There is still a lot of players that are hardcore multiplayer fans. A lot of people that only play multiplayer. However, unfortunately, based on this blog post, it looks like they're not too worried about the multiplayer. I feel like, personally playing multiplayer, it's not too bad of an experience. Having more fixes for Warzone is definitely a good thing, so I don't think multiplayer needed as much, but I can see why a lot of hardcore multiplayer fans will be a little bit disappointed with these updates. So they go on to mention audio again. This time it's specifically for multiplayer, and they are testing and re-implementing the occlusion system, and they are happy to report they will be back online for Season 2. So a good thing, you know, again, this affects footsteps, it affects people, you know, it affects your gameplay all in all. Again, they're just repeating themselves. They're making it seem like they've added an extra thing in here. Perk balancing. They could have added this in the Warzone part as well. These are not multiplayer specific topics. However, they do go on to say that they've heard a lot of feedback about the timing of bonus perks, especially Ghost. They said they've looked at swapping the perks position, but they felt this would create a severe imbalance in the perk system. So for the Season 2, they've updated the rate where ultimate perks are earned 25% quicker and bonus perks are 50% quicker. They've put this adjustment will allow players to get Ghost earlier in matches, which will better support players looking to engage more aggressively. Aggressive players are run and gun. They will run at you. They don't care if they're sin. They know that they're winning that gunfight. Anyway, weapon balancing. Again, I believe we've already mentioned this, but weapon balancing, this is something should be expected. You know, people find the best guns, people find which guns are the best, they use them, and that's when it's time to nerf. There's a lot of guns that need changing here. I feel like this is a big topic, especially for multiplayer, as there's many guns that are not even viable compared to some. They also say we've got 5 new guns coming to Season 2, which is definitely a good thing. It's good, you know, they could have just said 1, 2, but they've added 5 new guns. This is good news. However, I do believe that some of these are going to be mid-season, let's be honest. Hardcore. They've changed Tier 1 back to Hardcore. Didn't we all see this coming? Again, why did they change it in the first place? No one knows. But hey, they knew. They did it for a reason. No one knows what the reason was, but they did it. Anyway, we've got Hardcore back. Hopefully it's the Hardcore that we all have learnt and love, and I look forward to seeing how this plays out. Playlists, they're just mentioning this, but this whole section belongs in the 8th of February blog. Valentine's playlist, okay, cool. Multiplayer modes coming to Season 2, cool. And this is I feel like this is the only point that they needed to make here. Infinity will be creating a poll for fans to vote on one of that week's playlists from the rotating pool. We have seen this on Twitter already, and we've got Shoot the Ship for this week. This is a good point, as it proves they're interacting with the community more. They're listening to the community more. It's something they could have done right from the start of the game, and we'd have a much better game right now. At least they've made the change now. Lastly but not least, we've got Rank Play. They've put, last week we confirmed that Rank Play, a deep multiplayer experience done in partnership with Treyarch and the Call of Duty League and Infinity Ward, is coming to Season 2. Details on ranked maps, modes, and more will be revealed prior to launch. So again, they're gonna mention this. They're gonna mention this in the 8th of February blog. You know, they could have just put Rank Play's coming back. They could have added this somewhere further up. You know, they didn't need their own section. They've not mentioned much about this. Looking ahead, they've put, these are some of the changes coming to Season 2, and we have plenty of new content to share ahead of launch. Expect more information on brand new small maps coming to Warzone 2 next week, including the return of Resurgence, which I am very excited for. Don't know how it's going to play with all the new mechanics, but we'll see. I'm a bit sad about the time to kill not being upped. This is something that I feel like they should be investigating 100%. You don't get much time to react to being shot right now, and I feel like a lot of the time you're just dead before you even can react. So they have them put, the full Season 2 announcement blog will be released on February 8th, with upcoming posts from studios, including the full Season 2 patch notes, as well as blogs from Call of Duty staff, all set to drop before launch. We appreciate our dedicated and passionate Call of Duty community for the continued feedback and support. Stay frosty. Okay, so that sums up the blog. I feel like overall, very good changes. They could definitely go again, make just as many changes again. And, I feel like there's still quite a lot of problems that we need to change. I feel like the two main things for me anyway, especially being a Warzone main, I feel like the time to kill is massive, as I just mentioned, and also not just that, but I feel like the movement is something that needs to be looked at. This game feels too slow, and there's not enough ways to move. There's not enough ways that set the skill gap apart. You know, the people that play the game a lot should be able to get good at movement, should be able to have an advantage on the people that don't know how to use the movement, the people that don't put the time in to learn how to use the movement, should I say. Anyway, that just about sums up this video, and if you've enjoyed this content and you'd like to see more, make sure you drop me a like, subscribe to the channel with bell notifications, as I said before, for more Call of Duty related content, and also don't forget to drop a comment down below suggesting what video you would like to see next. Don't give up, keep grinding, and I'll see you in the next one.